This is the story of Cloudsdale, a place filled with creativity and determination, created by a player named BottleCapBrony. Cloudsdale was a base that lived twice since it was rebuilt block for block after a grief, but not that many players know how this base was built or the story behind it. Today in this video, I'll be telling you the story of Cloudsdale from the perspective of BottleCapBrony. BottleCapBrony joined 2B2T back in August of 2016. He had no real direction on the server, so BottleCapBrony decided that he wanted to build a My Little Pony themed base based off the Cloud City from MLP Cloudsdale. Since he was only on the server for a few months, he had no real scale of the size of the world, and his idea of a safe distance from spawn was skewed, so he decided to build 80,000 blocks from spawn. He chose the coordinates x 76,300, z 11,900 as a location, and on November 25th, 2016, BottleCapBrony started building. The base needed to be made out of white blocks, but since he was not in a snowy biome, the only renewable white blocks that could be used to make a giant cloud would be white wool. He built a bunch of pens for colored sheep and a giant pen for white sheep. Over the course of months, BottleCapBrony bred white sheep and filled up the pens with hundreds of them. His goal was to shear at least 10 stacks of wool every day, so he could build at a reasonable rate. When the 1111 dupe happened, he duped very little since he underestimated the scale of the project. As for the base itself, it started with a giant rainbow road leading up to the sky. The first thing he built was a small guest house with the intention of being friendly, so that griefers might spare the base. For the construction of the base, his plan was to make a list of all the builds and farms that he wanted the base to have. He would build those first, using scaffolding, and then he would use white wool to fill up the negative space between them, and give the base's underside a fluffy, realistic look. Such things included a library, game room, various farms, his bedroom, and many more structures. He built a signboard next, and not surprisingly, given the distance from spawn, players found his base very quickly. However, when the players contacted BottleCapBrony, they said that they admired the base too much to grief it. As the base grew, this cycle repeated. Players found the base amazing, so they would spare it so the base could grow to be even more amazing. He then built an automatic melon/pumpkin farm, followed by a temple to his favorite pony from the show, and a map art display room. Around this time, the crafting dupe went public, so BottleCapBrony was able to duplicate tons of white wool, which ran out very quickly due to the massive scale of this project. He built a massive hall with a bunch of chests, called the Hall of Everything, and the goal was to collect the full chest filled of every item in vanilla Minecraft. His next part of the base is one of his favorites, the custom NPC village. He had always been a fan of the glitchy and rustic look of vanilla NPC villages, so in single player, he designed an entire village, which he intentionally gave rugged roads and some customized buildings too. However, not all of the structures in Cloudsdale were designed by him. Some, but not all of the buildings in the village were copied from YouTube videos, so they were not his builds originally. He was somewhat ashamed that he used schematics, but he would still keep them there and would later get the chance to make things right. He built a library next to the Giant Chest Hall. The goal of this library was to write books describing all of his adventures on 2B2T, both big and small, and also cool things that he saw and took a part of. He built a stable where he would keep his horses and farm chickens too. His favorite game built at the base was a giant 3D maze where all of the floors were intertwined. All of the walls of the maze were glazed terracotta to confuse players who tried the maze, and he kept a scoreboard at the exit of the maze for all players to see each other's completion times for the maze. The last major structure that he built was a separate island which had a runway for the Pegasus in the TV show, and a wheat field for bread, and also an arboretum which had every plant life in Minecraft. Then, in December 2018, a player named Retronaut somehow found Cloudsdale and leaked it in a YouTube video. A few days later, on December 18th, January 2013 comes to Cloudsdale and blows up the whole base. BottleCapBrony decided to move on and start a new base out in the 150,000 block range from spawn. It was Halo themed and he loved the base a lot, but he felt off when building that base. The idea entered into his mind that a griefer would never return to a base they griefed, and Cloudsdale was not that well known or associated with, so BottleCapBrony debated on restoring the base. This was right at the time when the chunk dupe was working, so he could easily regain all of the wool and other blocks needed to rebuild it. BottleCapBrony decided that it was feasible, so he left his Halo base forever and went back to Cloudsdale to rebuild it. He had so many screenshots of the construction that he could rebuild Cloudsdale almost block by block. He wanted it to be exactly the way it was before the grief. In the process, he not only rebuilt a great portion of Cloudsdale, but he also added some new features that were not in the base pre-grief. He had joined the Spawn Masons group since then, so he designed a great lodge for one of their weekly meetings, and he also designed a huge PvP arena where the Masons and BottleCapBrony could play Capture the Flag, Slayer, and other PvP games. Around this time, a famous YouTuber and streamer named Etika would tragically kill himself during the time of the restoration, so BottleCapBrony built a memorial to Etika. He also thought it was the perfect time to get rid of the schematic buildings in his custom NPC village. One schematic building was relatively untouched by Jared's TNT, so BottleCapBrony left it, but he took this chance to design his own buildings to replace his schematic buildings. BottleCapBrony also built a big garden full of giant custom trees designed by himself. He also rebuilt his house, which is the building with the giant rainbow shooting out the top. He kept a small museum of items that were mostly worthless on Tutti, but were special to him. The house was modeled after Rainbow Dash's house from MLP. However, sometime in December 2019, Jared 2013 found out that BottleCapBrony was rebuilding and returned to grief it again, a year after the first grief. At this point, BottleCapBrony knew that rebuilding a base on Tutti is a trick that you can only play once, since Jared now knows to keep returning to ensure that Cloudsdale remains griefed. Since BottleCapBrony could not rebuild again, he published Cloudsdale on Reddit and also to FitMC, who did a tour of the base. At the time of the final grief, the base had about 960,000 wool blocks placed, about 140,000 sheep were sheared by hand, and the rest were duped. If Cloudsdale were never griefed, BottleCapBrony would have added MLP pixel art floating in the sky within render distance of the base, and floating clouds in render distance with simple buildings on them for aesthetic purposes. He would have made the underside of the base fluffy and rounded as well. Today, Cloudsdale is mostly recognizable. Many structures are blown up, but you can still see the remnants of the clouds and structures. If there is anything to be learned from Cloudsdale, it's that creativity and determination is a big part of Tutti. Without creativity, many bases will not be interesting or have so much effort put into it. Sometimes a base being griefed gives a player determination to keep building and thriving on a wasteland like Tutti, and that is what makes Tutti a server different from the rest. Thanks for watching. I would like to thank BottleCapBrony for the information for this video. Leave a like and maybe consider subscribing for more information like this in the future. Anyway guys, stay fast and see you guys next time.